Welcome to episode 1 of the Jeff and Jersey podcast.
We do reactions and post-game analysis of the NBA.
I'm Jersey.
I'm Jeff.
And let's get started on Kings Blazers. We're starting with the League Pass games. This game went down to the wire. The Kings are going to be one of my favorite League Pass teams this year.
Yep. Just got that three-headed backcourt monster, I guess you could say, that's just going to terrorize people. Just hard team that'll play hard and give teams some runs. Might not win a lot of games. But also, if De'Aaron Fox makes that next jump, then they might find themselves around that 10-seed area where those playing hopefuls.
Yep. And the just the defense on that team's awesome. Sean Holmes is very underrated.
Yep.
Harrison Barnes had an obvious great game.
36.
Oh my God, 36 points, great game. So they're going to be able to compete. Buddy Hield knocked down some shots. They're going to be able to play with some of the best teams, especially because their defense in that backcourt's awesome and just so fun to watch. But they're not going to win a lot of games, I don't think, this year. Maybe push the 10 or 9 seed.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I don't see them being much more than just a couple exciting wins. And Blazers just didn't get much production from Dame. I mean, he had 20. CJ had an awesome game, but I just don't think that they're that much different.
They're not really. I mean, also it's tough, when their problem has been defense in the past, and then you have Norman Powell, who's a 6'4" dude starting at small forward is kind of tough.
Yeah.
I like the addition of Larry Nance, though. Larry Nance and Cody Zeller are a big upgrade over Cantor.
Yeah.
And
I think that the one thing this Blazers team did in the offseason that I actually really liked was they addressed what has beat them in the past. So they lost to Jokic this past year in the playoffs, so they got bigger in the front court. They got more defensive in the front court. So I like that. I mean, I think they're a little different in that obviously Chauncey is their head coach. That's just awesome. I like Chauncey a lot.
Yep.
Great addition. But we just got to wait and see if they're different or if it's just going to be kind of the same old Blazers team that wins games. Dame is going to have to be clutch for them as always.
Yeah.
CJ is going to be CJ.
Yep.
He'll have some off nights, but CJ is awesome. So we just got to wait and see what they are.
Yeah.
That moves us on to Thunder Jazz. I think the Jazz are just going to be how they always are. Steady. They're going to just win a lot of games. They're like kind of the new age Spurs where you just know they're going to win. They're going to win 50 games this year. They're very good defensively. They got better this offseason.
They're just super solid, and to be able to replace Gobert at some point in the regular season with Whiteside, that helps out. Get guys like Rudy Gay to come off the bench and score instead of George Niang, who will just stand and shoot, and to actually have that creation. And if Donovan can make that next step, then maybe they can get to the second round and give a team some fits.
Their bench is always going to be good.
Yep.
You know, they had 2 dudes of the top 3 6 man of the year candidates, and then they add Rudy Gay in there, and they're always going to have shooters. They're always going to play up tempo. They're always going to have good defense. So they're going to be a good regular season team. Now it's just, can they put those pieces together in the playoffs? Mm-hmm. And one thing that I just wanted to say about the Thunder is it feels like the same old Thunder this year. Doesn't feel like they brought in enough to really make that next step and be competitive. When they lost CP3, they never really gained anything back to fill that void. You know, I feel like they have fun young guys, and they're going to be like a fun League Pass team just to check on because of SGA, Pokuševski, Giddey, a lot of playmakers, a lot of highlight reel plays, but I just don't see them being competitive enough to be, even top 12 in the West. I think they're going to be in the bottom, competing with the Rockets. Yeah, a lot of draft picks, but I mean they have a bright future because they have the couple pieces in the right spot and stuff, and they have obviously all that load of draft picks. But I just do not see a competitive team that's going to win a lot of games this year.
Yeah, it's just it hasn't feel like they've hit a home run on someone yet.
Yeah.
It always feels like
the SGA trade was awesome.
But in terms of drafting,
no.
Even the Giddey pick was kind of a reach a little bit. But I mean, obviously you got Dort went undrafted, but still you didn't even draft him.
Yeah,
and it's I haven't felt like they've just hit a home run.
Robinson Earl though, he's going to be a good big off the bench for them this year because they're starting Favors, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so Robinson Earl. I mean, everything Cone said, they're going to be good players, or he's going to be a good player. So, next is Magic Spurs.
The Magic are young. They're not going to be good. They're going to have some growing pains, but they do have solid pieces. I like having Fultz coming back. If he can stay healthy and he looks the way that he did, then they're going to be good. John Isaac, too, is
Suggs looked great in the summer league and preseason. His defense already looks like tremendous on the
Bamba
NBA
looks
level.
good, and I think having like Terrence Ross on the team doesn't really make sense because I still think you get some young guys out of him if you trade him to a good team because he'll help out a good team way more than you will the Magic.
Yeah. Gary Harris too. He's still on their team. Yeah. I don't like the roster construction. Then obviously they brought in Lopez this summer.
Contracts to the offseason.
Bringing in Lopez was kind of weird, but as a whole, there's a young team, growing pains, like we said. And then they played the Spurs in this one. Spurs, they're just going to compete. That's what I have written down in my notes, is that they're just like one of those teams that has vets. They're going to compete, but they've also sprinkled in a lot of young guys. I love Murray. His defensive ability is just through the roof. And then Keldon Johnson had a great summer.
Yep.
So those guys are obviously under the Spurs system. They're going to come out and be like the team that like kind of shocks you every year. They're going to win a couple games. I think they're going to be that 11, 10, 9 spot. Maybe if they overachieve, they're going to be the 9, but probably more of a like hopeful play-in team to me.
And like having guys like Vassell looked great.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be really good defensively because like they just have guys that are underrated defenders. Like Pirtle is great.
Yeah.
And then Pop's always going to get them to play hard.
Yeah. They're always going to compete in games, especially, when you play a team like the Magic. That is a game that they're going to win that game.
Yes.
That's they don't take those games lightly. Next, we go to the Rockets T-Wolves, which the T-Wolves that was my biggest question mark this year is would those three really work out? And is Edwards going to take a jump? What does Cat look like? Because we haven't seen a fully healthy and fully right Karl Anthony Towns in 2 or 3 seasons probably. And so what does that dynamic look like in that team?
It looked great in the first game, like dominated. Anthony Edwards yelling at the Rockets coach to call timeout. It seems like they're coming in and feel like it's how they should be. Like how we thought the T-Wolves should have been with like these picks, like with Wiggins and stuff like that. You have all these high draft picks. Like you should be a young, exciting team, and it feels like they're moving in that right direction, especially if D'Lo can be anything close to what he was in Brooklyn.
Yep.
And with Cat, if he even gets better, it just makes him
one of the best, one of the most talented offensive centers ever with the shooting.
Yes.
And all that stuff. He's just incredible to watch. And one thing I noted is I just think the Rockets are kind of in that same situation as, they're like the Magic where they have some fun, young, exciting guys, but then also some weird head-scratching roster moves where you bring in Tice.
Which is just so, like, you're starting Tice and Christian Wood.
Yeah, and so I just don't love their roster right now. I like Kevin Porter.
Yep.
I love Green. I like those young athletic guards. Yeah, Eric Gordon's another one. Like, why is he still on your team? But they're going to be fun to watch, but they won't win a lot of games this year. They don't have enough depth. They don't have enough star power to win games in this league. Next, we go to the Cavs Grizz.
What was that starting lineup for the Cavs?
I don't know. I don't know who they're going to guard. They're lucky that they're lucky that they played the Grizzlies, who have, I'm not going to say none, but they don't have a lot of like wing creation. It's more guard creation, guards coming off the dribble and stuff. Kyle Anderson obviously was getting buckets in that game and passing and stuff, and he's just fun to watch. But I can't imagine when they play Tatum or Jaylen Brown or whoever, like who is going to guard him? Is Lauri Markkanen guarding him? Is Mobley going to guard Jason Tatum in his first NBA game against a superstar wing like that? I just don't like. Maybe they changed the starting lineup. Maybe it's a
Okoro should be starting.
Yeah, maybe it's a matchup-based thing, and maybe they thought they could go big against the Grizzlies because they don't have a lot of creators on the wings. Not a lot of, But I don't know. I don't know what the Cavs are doing. I don't know the direction. I like their 2 young guards, but are they going to be superstars? I just don't know at this moment in time. Mobley had a great game. Yeah. Mobley could be one of those like franchise cornerstone bigs. They also have Allen. He's an awesome shot blocker. You need rim protection in this league, but I just don't know their direction right now.
Like signing Jared Allen to $100 million and then paying Markkanen $67 million, and you still have Kevin Love on contract for $60 million or so. It's just weird, and then not willing to pay Sexton.
Yeah, weird. And we also have written down Ja is obviously the first thing. When you turn a Grizzlies game on, Ja just pops off the screen. And it gets better every year. And it's even like we had a discussion where the first thing that comes to your mind when you see Ja is the alley-oop that he caught and the flying through the air. And then you think, oh, his knees, he's landing weird. But now he's like shooting all those floaters and the in-between game he's developing. Like, he should take a full look at Derrick Rose's career and just see, Derrick Rose is a killer in that mid-range floater.
Oh, yeah, because he can get there and then elevate so quick that
Ja should have 2 or 3 plays a game where he goes as hard as he can to the rim like he does, highlight plays, get the team sparked, but then he's also developing that jumper and that mid-range. And so he's offensively, and his passing's always been special. That was a draft night thing. You knew his passing was special. So Ja looks like he's going to take that next step, and, he's just always going to be a fun guy, fun team. Grizzlies are a fun team to watch. So.
Yeah, and then with the Jaren Jackson Jr. contract, I feel like it was optimistic that he's going to stay healthy and produce that. It was kind of like a hopeful contract to me. Yeah. That like comparing it to like the Jaylen Brown contract a couple years ago, people like head scratcher a little bit, but then like if he stays healthy, he has the tools to develop and become a good power forward in the league.
I was kind of at first against the Jaren Jackson Jr. contract, and I was like, we're really paying. He got the same money that Julius Randle got.
Yeah.
Like that was what put it into perspective for me. I was just like, wow, man, that's just crazy that's what the NBA is now.
Yeah.
NBA guys get paid. That's just the way it is. But he is, if you were going to build a four-man to be around Ja, that is the guy.
Perfect. Like a
very versatile defender, can shoot from the corners, is developing that deeper three-pointer. Mm-hmm. Very good roller.
Yes.
High IQ. He's the perfect guy, and so maybe that's what they see with those two. He's also a very exciting player. Yep. That culture and that core that they got is just awesome right now.
Yeah.
Next, 76ers, Pelicans. The Sixers, they're going to win with or without Simmons. All the drama that's going on, and today, we're recording this a day after their game against the Pelicans, where Morey says this might last 4 more years. I think that he's for real. I think the Sixers are all in on they want Ben Simmons to play for them, or they want a game changer. And is that game changer? Maybe that comes at the All-Star break if the Blazers are 10 games below 500 and they dump Dame or they dump CJ and whoever for Simmons. I think that's where Simmons gets traded. I don't think that he's going to get traded early on.
Because he's not doing anything to make his trade value better. It just goes down every single day that he's not playing.
I also think, though, to add into that, I don't know how much lower it could get.
That's true.
How much lower? Yeah. So him just showing up is going to make it go up. That's what I think the Sixers are sitting at, is like, people know who Ben Simmons is as a player.
Yes.
Now, does it go down every day? I don't think it does. I think his chance to play for them goes down every day. But I don't think his value doesn't go down, because I know if I trade for Ben Simmons, I know I'm going to get top 5 defender in the world, versatile, great passer.
Yeah.
Like, well above average passer, probably a great passer.
Yeah.
He's got a great NBA body, freak athleticism. He just can't shoot. So I know what I'm getting with Ben Simmons. I think teams right now, though, are just reluctant to give up a lot, because they know the Sixers have nothing with Ben Simmons.
Nothing.
If Ben Simmons starts to show up to practices, he will get traded. I promise you. If Ben Simmons starts to show up to practices and play, then teams are going to go, oh, he might actually want to stay there. He might actually want to be there. And then he'll get traded for what the Sixers want. Yep. That's the whole picture right there. And then we also have written, the Pelicans just need Zion. Zion completes their roster. They have the great wing, the 2 wings, Zion and Ingram. And then Josh Hart off the bench. They have decent depth.
Valanciunas.
They added Graham, great on-ball creator. They just miss Zion.
And then having the new coach, and hopefully they get out and run like they should be, because last year with Van Gundy as the coach, they just played way too slow. They should be out running and throwing lobs to Zion and playing fast. Get Ingram in the half court, and
Ingram can be your half court guy. Let Zion get 4 or 5 buckets out of transition quick.
Especially with Lonzo on that team too, they just decided to play slow. That just doesn't make sense to me.
They kind of prioritized Ingram and Lonzo's defensive upside over what they could be offensively, and then you plug the defense in. So I didn't really like how Van Gundy went about that stuff. Next, we got the Wizards and the Raptors.
The Wizards are going to be better than people think. They're a lot deeper. I think they're a better team this year than last year.
Yeah, me too.
Losing Westbrook and getting back 3 or 4 players in return, and then to bring in Dinwiddie, and if you have Harrell coming off the bench, you got like Gafford starting, and then like Beal is probably going to put up 28 to 32 in that area.
Kuzma's streaky too. Kuzma's streaky.
KCP.
I'm not a huge Kuzma fan, but they did get the 3 scorers from the Lakers. They got 3 very good shooting, and then obviously when Harrell comes in off the bench, he's a great, well above average bench creator out of that high post.
Yes.
And so I think that
they have a very deep team.
And I think the best team around Bradley Beal is a team that moves the ball. If you've ever seen Bradley Beal play, he's coming off screens. You know, he's
it needs to flow. It needs to be fast. That's why it worked with John Wall, because John Wall pushed the pace and everything. But like when they started to slow down, it just felt like bleh.
Yeah, so the Raptors are also a team we think are going to be better than people expect just because of their depth and the culture that they have there. I love Malachi Flynn. He's a great bench guard.
They have great guard.
He's going to get a lot better.
Dragic, Malachi Flynn, and then obviously
Gary Trent.
Yep.
Too. Gary Trent's a very underrated player.
Drafting Scotty Barnes, and then you still got Siakam. You got Boucher.
Yep.
And then OG Anunoby is going to be in the running for most improved.
Is Kem Birch their starting big right now?
I think
Boucher's
so.
out. So Kem Birch is obviously a capable player.
And
they're always going to be a fun league pass team for me because I just love watching them play defense.
And Nick Nurse is going to get them to play hard, play defense. It's kind of like a Pop situation where they're just always going to play hard, play defense.
Well, and the schemes are fun. They'll come out in a 2-3 zone, then they'll be in a 3-2, and then they'll be full court pressing.
Or them like playing a box and one in the bubble and stuff. Nobody does that, and
they're just fun.
And obviously, them being back in Toronto helps out so much more. They didn't play a single home game last year because they're thousands of miles away.
Yeah,
and
totally.
To be back there is going to help out a lot. And then I think they're playing contenders in the East as well.
Oh, yes, for sure. 2 teams they're going to have to contend with, though, Pacers, Hornets. They played probably the second most exciting game of the day was Pacers, Hornets of the first 2 days, all the games we're covering. And the Pacers, to me, are like that Spurs of the East, or maybe the Jazz of the East. Not as good, obviously, because their top talent isn't as good as the Pacers' top talent isn't as good as the Jazz. But that team that's always going to show up and play hard, always going to be unexpectedly good and deep. Like they always next man up mentality. You know, LeVert doesn't play. Duarte comes in, first game of his career, best opening night you can expect from a rookie.
Yeah, and then
points.
Sabonis is always going to give you stuff. Miles Turner has been disappointing in recent years, and then obviously
the block shots are always going to be there though. Yeah. So it takes a lot of the defensive pressure off of Sabonis. That's why he can be such a freak on offense.
Yeah, they're just a quiet team. Like Brogdon
Brogdon
puts up great numbers,
the most
but it's
boring rookie of the year ever. But he's just
so quiet,
a very solid, steady player. And I will say, this kind of goes back to the Ben Simmons stuff because one trade I've seen a lot of on Twitter and things like that is maybe a Brogdon Ben Simmons swap, that type of thing. I don't think the Pacers are ever getting rid of Brogdon.
No.
And I don't think it's going to be soon. I know we talked about that, or we saw those rumors with the trades this offseason. They just look like a team that just flows really well.
Yes,
obviously, they switched the head coaches this offseason. I think they have an actual direction now.
Yes.
I think that they have 4 or 5 good core pieces that they like. I do not see them moving.
No.
I don't see them moving 2 of those core pieces for Ben Simmons anytime soon.
Right.
Yep.
The spacing with him, Sabonis, and Turner wouldn't be great at all. It's just
super awkward and weird feel. I don't like the Pacers trade package for. I like it if I'm the Sixers. Brogdon and LeVert for Simmons.
Oh,
that creation and that defense in the backcourt all day long. But I don't like it if I'm the Pacers. I like the roster that they have a lot. Once they get the healthy wings back, they're gonna be fine.
Yes.
Lamelo is ready to go next level. Lamelo went on that streak in the third quarter. He's hitting the 3 ball now. He's an exciting passer. You know, the whip passes underhand, the behind the head stuff.
The league pass team.
Yeah, league pass. Total number 1 league pass team for me. We're going to be watching them all year. Their announcers or commentary play-by-play is awesome. Hayward is fun to watch, very skilled scorer. He was the guy they were going to in the fourth quarter to get them their buckets. And
they have like fun pieces.
They'll get Terry Rozier back.
They have Bridges. They got like PJ Washington, even Kelly Oubre. Just like pieces that fit well, and just if they get out and run, then I think they can push teams and be just a great like 9 or 8 seed, but like a convincingly good team.
Yes, and I think that they even take. So the East is going to be weird this year. That top 3 seeds might not be the actual reflection on who is the top 3 best teams, because Brooklyn might not win as many games as people expect, but they're going to be dialed in by the time the postseason comes around.
Yeah.
The Heat might be a top 3 team. The Bulls, if their chemistry looks the way it did.
Yes.
So that brings us to Bulls Pistons. The Bulls chemistry is miles ahead of pace. And I just think, number one, it comes with very unselfish players.
Yes.
DeMar, Vucevic, Lonzo, the guys that they've brought in the past 2 years. Patrick Williams is a quiet guy.
Yeah.
They have Caruso, all the guys that they've brought in, very unselfish. And I think that just is going to build on top of Levine's awesome skill set.
Having guys like Derrick Jones Jr. come off the bench, Caruso, Kobe White will come off the bench, and then like there's going to be a fun team, and it did look like they're way ahead of pace, and Vucevic didn't even play that great, and he still put up a good stat line. Didn't shoot great at all, and then it's obvious that they're going to Levine when it's crunch time.
Yeah, and Levine has taken that step to me where he's gonna get 28 to 30 this year, even if all the great scores that they have. It doesn't matter because you always go to your best guy in the fourth quarter, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you have 3 nearly equal scorers, you're going to go to the top guy in the fourth quarter.
No matter how bad he's playing or anything
clutch.
Like that.
He can shoot from every area on the floor, mid-range, fadeaways, three-pointers, step back off the dribble, off screens, everything. And so I think that they will go to DeMar a little bit, in first 3 quarters in his high post stuff and his mid-range creating game and passing and all that is just exceptional, very unselfish player. But Levine is their guy, and he's gonna take him as far as he can. And now that he has that roster around him, that exciting, young, but they have the vets, they have the young guys. It's mixing well. They look like they're sharing the ball. I even watched a sequence where it was the one back to the corner, and then the rotation didn't get over. Found Vucevic for the layup. Like they're moving the ball as good as you can right now, and that's a fun team to watch.
Yeah, and the Pistons are just waiting on Cade, hoping that he comes back soon to where you can actually start getting rotation, establishing what this team is going to be. Because if you want to build around Cade, like Jeremy Grant is their best player, obviously, and had a pretty good game. Didn't shoot great, but you want Cade to come in.
Yeah.
And
the Pistons really were going to be one of my league pass teams this year. Not a whole lot of nationally televised games.
Right.
But without Cade, it's just that their offense is choppy, hard to watch.
Yep.
They're not a great team by any means, but they have a lot of young talent. Sadiq Bey is fun. Saban Lee I like a lot.
Isaiah Stewart,
yep. And then Killian Hayes, left-handed point guard. He's crafty, fun passer. So they'll get better. And then they had a couple weird off-season ads too. But the Pistons are just one of those teams. They need Cade to be that guy 2 or 3 years from now. If he can make the jump that LaMelo's making now next year,
if he's the player that everyone thinks he's going to be, then they'll be fine. But if he's not, or he can't stay healthy, then that's obviously a problem because that sets him a couple years back.
Okay, so now we're going to get on to the nationally televised games, and obviously the first game of the entire season was Nets-Bucks, and it was the ring ceremony. The first thing that stood out to me when we were just sitting here watching the game and discussing it, we pick games apart very fast. Like, first time we see it, we bring it up and talk about it. It just didn't feel like the Nets, and this is just a first game thing, and I think this happens with a lot of stars, and we'll talk about this later with Devin Booker, too. Felt like they were not forcing Kevin Durant the ball in the first half. They were not running any plays for him. They weren't running anything to get him his back to the basket at the elbow. Felt like he was just getting buckets as they came to him, which Kevin Durant obviously ends up with, 30 points? And
30 and 11.
He ends up shooting great in the second half and playing a great game, but they want to win big games. Obviously, they got to go to him. The next thing on our list is First thing that I noticed for the Bucks, that was the first thing I noticed for the Nets. First thing I noticed for the Bucks is their defensive lineups are going to be way different this year with Allen.
I don't think
Allen instead of PJ Tucker in that starting lineup.
Their depth is interesting. If Noir can step up, great. Grayson Allen will have to hit shots consistently until DiVincenzo comes back. Connaughton looks great.
Connaughton looked awesome. Dunks, threes. Yeah. Connaughton looks like, when I saw him play in the finals, I was thinking, man, if they get this out of him normally. Yes. And that dude, he looks like an awesome role player for them.
Yeah.
They should be just so excited with how those role players played. Nora, 15 points, like that type of thing. Great production from them. But my one concern with the loss of PJ Tucker is that Middleton has to guard Kevin Durant now.
Yes.
And Middleton, by the time that maybe they add someone at the deadline, maybe they
low key pickup.
Maybe they pick someone up who's a 6'7" wing who can tire Kevin Durant out and guard him for 35 minutes in the playoffs or something.
Yeah.
But the Bucks in the playoffs, when they really reached their peak, was in the fourth quarter when Middleton had the ball in his hands and Giannis set him a pick and roll and he came off. Now, if Middleton has to guard KD for 40 minutes a night in the playoffs,
he's not doing that in the fourth quarter.
And do that, they're going to need Drew Holiday to get healthy now, obviously, because he went out.
Yep.
But I don't like the defensive dynamic as much with the Bucks anymore because they don't have, maybe Giannis in the playoffs, maybe they switch on and off on KD, and it's you go hard on him, you go hard on him. Maybe they stagger him in lineups more.
Right.
But that defensive, I loved the way they looked on defense last year. Even if KD has 50 on PJ Tucker or whatever it was the one game.
Yeah.
It's like
there's not much else you can do.
As long as the dude who's going to be knocking shots down for me in the fourth quarter doesn't have to put an elbow on his hip every possession, I'm good. And they just don't have that right now. They looked great. Giannis, his confidence. It reminds me of 2013 LeBron.
Yep. Got that pressure off his shoulders.
Just won a ring, got the pressure off your shoulders, and now I'm going to come back hungrier, healthier. He wasn't even healthy.
That is just ridiculous.
Healthier, better looking jump shot, free throws.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like addressing his issues, like a player should. Yeah. Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
But like to have that confidence for someone who has a great Hall of Fame resume at 26, that it's scary hours for the league if he can make another jump.
Especially watching like that next jump, no one's talking about it with Middleton right now, but just watching a player's confidence. Middleton was hitting all those big shots. If that becomes normal every year in the playoffs, the Bucks might win 4 or 5 Eastern Conference titles in the next 6 or 7 years. You know,
they just
especially Holiday is still going to be a good player for the next 4 or 5 years.
Picking up the point guards 94 feet.
He doesn't have to be a top offensive production.
Right.
He doesn't have to. Like, every time he gets the ball, score. He only has to get 15 to 16 a game because Middleton's going to be getting his 20, 25. Giannis is going to get 30.
Yep.
And so I love their team dynamic. It's just the defense is just a little hairy for me right now. Yep. Next thing we go to is the referees. And that's the first thing you think of is James Harden with the referees. I thought the games have been flowing so much nicer.
Way better to watch other than the Lakers. But
the Lakers game was just very difficult to watch. We'll get to that,
but yeah, Harden, like you could see early, he tried to like pin his arm against someone on the defense or trying to fall down after every jumper, and they're not calling it. And he's such a great player that he just adjusted and was like, oh well, so these aren't going to get called anymore, and went out and he didn't shoot great, but still like he flowed a lot better.
Harden will adjust, and Harden's top 75 player ever.
Right.
You know, great talent. He's going to adjust, but we just had to bring up the fact that the refs, and it's not even just a shot at James Harden. We saw it in the Knicks game. They didn't call the Fournier jump into. They didn't call a lot of stuff, which is good. Great. I want the game to be flowing. I want, if a dude's going to the rack and putting his shoulder in the defensive player's chest, I want the defensive player to be able to body him up and it not be just a foul automatically.
Yeah.
Lots of great refereeing this weekend, and I thought it was awesome. The last thing we're going to talk about in this game is we talked so much about the Bucks lineup and their rotation and Connaughton, and obviously they're going to get Bobby Portis back, which is going to be huge for their front court. Where was Bruce Brown?
That he was probably the 4th best player for the Nets in that playoff series, and played great because he exposed if he's setting your screens and then you can just do that little floater.
And he's so quick. and he can switch. He's like a 6'4" guy, but he can guard 1, 2, 3 small ball fours. He's a very versatile player to have, and I just don't get how
Javon Carter taking his
Javon
minutes?
Carter took his minutes. I don't get. Maybe it's just Steve Nash. Maybe something happened behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Yeah, maybe just trying out rotations because even Millsap and Aldridge. And
I didn't like Millsap. He didn't look very good, but Patty Mills looked awesome.
Great.
Patty Mills,
6 Man of the Year candidate.
With these new rules too, you can tell Patty Mills, 6 Man of the Year easily. Yeah, candidate easily. He's gonna come in and be that instant spark. And since they're starting Harden at the point guard, you can sub. This is another thing about the Nets that I like, is you can sub Patty Mills in for anyone in that starting lineup, and then they adjust. You sub him in for Blake Griffin, KD moves to the 4, Harris moves to the 3, Harden moves to the 2, Patty Mills is in at the 1. Works out good. You sub him in for Harden. Okay, that's just 1 for 1. That type of thing. Lineups are very dynamic with that team, especially with them starting big. They started Claxton,
which they should.
Yeah, I think so too. Very. I was impressed by their lineups. They'll bounce back. They'll be fine.
Yes.
And the Bucks came out with a lot of energy.
Yeah, ring night needed to.
Okay, Lakers Warriors. This was the night game, the most difficult of the nationally televised games to watch.
Easily.
So many of these complaining fouls. It was ugly. But the first thing that made it ugly was, what is Russ's fit on this team?
It's so hard because he to get out in transition and stuff is when he's at his best, but that's LeBron's job.
Yeah.
And then in the half court he can't do anything because it's a stutter step bank shot, throw it at the back of the rim. Instead it should be going to AD in the post.
Yeah.
And then even if you bring Rondo in too, it's Rondo is more adjusted to playing with LeBron. Maybe it's just he's got to figure out how he's got to play with LeBron, but I think Russ should run with the second unit more.
Yep. So Michael Wilbon got kind of clowned by Stephen A. the other day on the pregame show. Yeah. Remember that? And he goes, Russ needs to take full advantage and just run with the number 2s. Run with the backups. Run with the bench unit. You can be the guy with the ball creating, kicking out to those shooters, kicking out to Melo when Ariza gets back, THT.
Wayne Ellington.
Play with a big who you can lob it to, that type of thing. Play with them. This is how I think it happens. Russ is not coming off the bench. We all know that. Not. You sub Rondo in for Russ at the 6-minute mark. Okay? Sub him in. Then Rondo's your point guard. He's pushing it with LeBron. It's a way better fit. Not going to say Russ is selfish, but it's a way more willing passer up the floor to the wings, up the floor to AD. Rondo's going to push it. You get Russ out of the game early, right? Maybe at the 7-minute mark even. And then you bring Russ back in for LeBron at the 2-minute mark. So then you got healthy Russ coming in, not tired, that's when the other teams are going to start subbing their backups in. So that's what I think is the fix to the rotation. Vogel will figure it out. He's one of the best on-fly adjustment coaches in the league. But that's the rotation to me.
I don't see if there's any other way for them, because I just don't think he can play with LeBron and AD as much.
And I even think at that 2-minute mark, when you bring Russ in for LeBron, you bring an Ellington or a Malik Monk in for Rondo.
Yeah.
So then you don't have. I saw too much of Rondo and Westbrook on the court.
Yeah, that dynamic doesn't work at all.
It honestly, kind of a bad example, but it reminds me of the first year LeBron when they decided to go, we're going to put playmakers around LeBron.
Right.
I don't like that.
I don't either. He's one of the greatest playmakers ever.
Yeah. I don't like it. The next thing we got is just the starting lineup for the Lakers. We just found it a little weird that DeAndre Jordan was a starter.
He did one thing.
Yeah, he caught a lob on the first play.
Of the game. But
I love AD at the 5.
Yes.
AD at the 5. It doesn't even need to be LeBron at the 4. Put Melo at the 4. Not starting, but that could be a very early game lineup.
Very early, yep.
More shooting. Lakers need more shooting. LeBron at the 4 makes it to where there's more shooting. If you move LeBron to the 4, and when Ariza gets back or whoever gets back, put him at the 3.
Yeah,
more shooting.
I did not like the DeAndre Jordan minutes at all.
Didn't either.
Even if
I like Howard. I like Howard more than Howard more than Jordan.
Oh, way more. DeAndre Jordan didn't even get minutes on the Nets.
So I don't know what they're doing, and Vogel will figure it out. He'll change his lineups up. Next thing we got on this game was was the perfect picture of what Steph Curry's career was.
Yes. He's sacrificing and getting others involved, and it seems he's just not making it about himself. He's never been one of those guys that's like, it's about me. It's always about everyone else. Sacrificing whatever. When he's not shooting great, he's dishing out, like recording a triple-double. That's what you should do as a superstar in this league, or close to it if you're not having a great shooting night.
You're not shooting well. Like, he had the big offensive rebound that I remember in that left corner. Where he snagged it, like, with one hand falling down and stuff.
Yeah, and he attracts so much attention, too.
Letting Poole go, letting his guys go. When they get Clay back, it's going to be a very deep, capable team.
Yes.
Bielitsa, if that's how you say it,
great.
He looked awesome. He was that, like, short roll playmaker when Draymond was out, and he was, like... He was even, like, Euro stepping, and, like, they look like a fun team. Wiggins is kind of a question mark, and so is Wiseman. Wiseman's going to fit in on this team, like, really weird.
Yeah, how is...
He's going to have to commit to just being a bench player. Scorer.
Yeah, and it's weird because, like, he's played, like, very little games since high school.
Yeah.
And him not being healthy is a concern because he's just barely played, and then if you're going up against NBA players, then it's like...
Yeah, he's very skilled. Obviously, the ceiling is just as high as a young big man ceiling can be is James Wiseman. I have no worries for him. I think that they have a great culture there. He's going to get better. Obviously, with young guys like Poole, Wiggins is still relatively young. Kuminga. Moody. Yep, they're young, but they're also old. Like, they're a fun team.
They have a good mesh.
It also feels like they have a guy. They have a guy almost at every position that their vets are at.
Yes.
Looney has started a lot of NBA games. A
lot of important NBA games. Yes.
And so him in front of Wiseman. You know, you got Draymond in front of Kuminga. Yeah. You got Clay in front of Moody. Steph and Poole in the backcourt. Like, you got a great dynamic with that team. They're going to be fun team to watch. They play tonight that we're going to watch against the Clippers.
Yes.
Yeah, so that'll be a good game, and we got lots of Warriors games to watch this year and look forward to.
Yeah.
And last thing with that game that I wanted to note is that, you know, LeBron and AD look like 2020. LeBron and AD.
AD looked a little bit out of shape, but other than that, nothing can.
He hit the floor probably like 45 times in that game. But LeBron and AD, LeBron looked great. He's going to be more aggressive. He wasn't as aggressive to the cup.
Right.
But that's just first game LeBron.
Settled for a bit more jumpers, but I mean,
who's knocking him down?
Yeah. And then it's LeBron and AD. They'll be fine.
Okay. Next, we wanted to do Nuggets Suns, so if you can't tell, I'm a Knicks fan. He's a Celtics fan. So we wanted to save our teams for last because we might talk for like 4 hours about that. But we're going to talk Nuggets Suns first. This game sucked.
Yes.
Not because it was a bad game, but because it followed directly after the greatest basketball game I've ever watched in my life. Jokic looks awesome. Yeah. Porter Jr.'s jumper just looks so smooth.
He's going to be a star.
He's going to be a star, but this game was just so difficult to watch after that.
It was just like slow pace, and even it's two teams that we enjoy watching all the time. It's just it followed a just classic
all-time great NBA game that I've ever watched. And that double overtime, big shot after big shot, role players, superstars, everything. Yeah. We'll get to that in a sec. But Booker, like I mentioned earlier with KD, the Suns just looked a little off. Looked like
out of rhythm.
Out of rhythm. I think the Nuggets just played it like a little harder to me, it looked like. But Booker will be fine. Booker's going to be Booker, 25 points a game at least.
At least.
Very skilled scorer. They're going to be a good team. Extending Shamet was a little weird, but I'm a big Shamet fan. I liked him on the Clippers 3 years ago, and I've liked him everywhere he's went. Shamet's going to be a good player for them. Yeah. Mikal Bridges is a great young wing. I mean,
he develops at least a little bit of like self-creation that changes things.
Oh yeah.
And then having Cam Johnson off the bench is
Cam Johnson was great in the playoffs. Yeah. Knockdown shooter. Suns will be fine. Nuggets are going to have another good year, and then the Nuggets. So what is Jamal Murray's timetable? Is he?
I don't know.
2 or 3 more months probably.
Maybe around January.
January, because man, if they give Porter Jr. 3 or 4 months to really get it in gear, and then you add in an elite shot creator and Jamal Murray to that lineup, man, they're going to be fun. And plus, Jamal Murray even makes, like, Campazzo's a good defender, very, like, hard-working defender and stuff. Jamal Murray's not bad either, so I don't think they lose a lot of defensive production.
No, they don't.
Or a lot of their perimeter defense. They're not one of the best. They're not a very good perimeter defensive team, but their offense is going to explode when he comes back.
Easily. They're just going to play so much more fast-paced, and it'll be entertaining to watch.
Very entertaining teams. Obviously, the Suns trying to repeat Western Conference Finals champs, trying to get back there. Chris Paul's trying to give himself one more chance to win a title. He's going to have a couple years here to win a title, but it's another good year for them because the West is – people want to say the Lakers are loaded and stuff. The Lakers are loaded with lots of talent, lots of
old talent.
a couple Hall of not a couple, 5 or 6 Hall of Famers on that roster.
Yeah.
They're going to be great. But the West is as wide open as it was last year.
I agree.
Because Kawhi is out. So that's probably your second best team in the West.
Warriors are coming back.
Doesn't have their best player.
Right.
The Warriors are going to have Clay, which they're going to be awesome. The Warriors are. Utah's just as good or better than they were.
Yep.
Because they got better. And then I even think Dallas is going to be better.
Yep.
Dallas added perimeter shooting and block and some defense, and they got a little more versatile, and they'll be good. But the West, for teams like the Nuggets and the Suns, the Blazers we talked about earlier, I don't know how much better they got.
Yeah.
But the West is one injury away from anyone could win the West.
Being so
literally
open,
anybody.
Which is great, honestly.
Yeah.
But like even if Kawhi was playing,
it's still the Clippers aren't the favorite even if Kawhi is healthy. But just example, there might even be an extra seed available because if the Clippers are the 8 or 9 seed, there might be an extra one up there where the Blazers don't end up in the play-in or whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, to get to the Celtics Knicks. I'm a Knicks fan, and he's a Celtics fan. This game had us going crazy. It was like we started, the Knicks felt like they were in control. Then Jaylen Brown happened in the first quarter, and Jaylen Brown he looks great.
Fantastic. Ready to make that next step, I think, which is even insane because...
I don't know what the step is because of how good he was last year. If the step is a All-NBA player, you got 2 young...
All-NBA level players.
Is he 24, 25?
Yeah, he's turning 25 this year.
So you have 2 dudes 25 and under at the wing spot, the most important position in the whole NBA, make an All-NBA team because Tatum got totally screwed last year.
Yep.
He's an All-NBA talent. But if you have 2 of those, man, being a Celtics fan, you got to just be like...
ecstatic is totally a word excited. That I would use to describe that.
On top of that, though... we have to bring up RJ Barrett's defense because I love RJ Barrett. All my friends make fun of me for it. He wanted to be a Knick. He's the first draft pick. Obviously, Kevin Knox wanted to be a Knick, but that's because he should have been drafted like 19th overall, and we drafted him 9th. Everyone behind our pick. We should have taken Michael Porter Jr., like I said. But RJ wanted to be a Knick. He put the Knick hat on the Jimmy Kimmel show. Is that what it was? Or was it Jimmy Fallon?
Something like that.
Yeah.
One of the 2.
He put the Knicks hat on as a joke or whatever. He wanted to be a Knick. He wanted to be here. And watching him just get like a little bit better every year. The jumper looks way more fluid. There's way less like of a hitching action at the top.
You feel confident that it's going to go in.
Yeah. And he even took just a terrible one, like a kick out 3 over Tatum, who was like totally closed out hand in the face, and he just shot it like it felt like it went through the roof
in the midst of the greatest stretch in like overtime history.
Like
bang,
like RJ Barrett, the shot creation still didn't look great, but obviously Fournier, I think right now, as of now, is a better shot creator. And so we're not going to go to RJ late in games and stuff, but his defense just looked tremendous. Yes. Obviously, Tatum going 7 of 30 is not RJ Barrett didn't have him in jail. But RJ Barrett was making him take fadeaways. He was making him get to the spots that you need Tatum to get to not have 50 on you.
You can tell who didn't watch the game because they'll just clown Tatum for...
Yeah.
Like, he had a lot of open shots that he missed.
Yeah, Tatum just didn't look right. Tatum's going to bounce back and be fine. And it's not... I'm not sitting up here saying that Jason Tatum had a bad game because RJ Barrett is the best defender in the world. I'm not saying that, but RJ Barrett's defense was noticeable. He had a hand on the hip. He made him take that step back in the corner for the game.
Yep.
And he was there. He wasn't falling backwards. RJ Barrett is going to be the best defender on the perimeter on one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. And Tibbs teams are always good at defense.
No matter what.
He will be there. He will be one of the best defenders on this team, easily on the perimeter. Mitchell Robinson's a different story. He's totally just a beast on defense in the paint. But RJ was great. Next, I got Randall. Randall is not a fluke.
Nope.
Ladies and gentlemen. Randall is a player who's going to make another All-NBA team, possibly. Because if the Knicks are as good as they were last year, which I have them projected a couple games better, maybe not seeding though, because the East is a little bit better now.
Yep.
Wins wise, we're gonna win more than I think we won 44 last year. I think we're gonna win somewhere 45, 46 games. If he is the guy like he was last night, 35, 9, and 8, Randall's going to get votes. He's in New York.
Yes.
He's going to make the All-Star game if he's playing like he did last night. And Knicks fans just love him. And I love him. We got him for the same contract as Jaren Jackson Jr., a guy like that. And that's just Randall's awesome. And as a Knicks fan, you can't help. But I was at the front of the line, and I'll admit it, to trade him last year. And now he's like my favorite player probably on the entire
watching
team.
him, just like as soon as he hit that step back three, the first play of the game.
Start the game, yeah.
I said he's not a fluke.
It's not a fluke. We just had to wait for that one shot, and then we would know.
Because after having just an abysmal playoff performance, to come out and just be that confident is crazy, and just had another element to his game. Just it felt like he was just more confident, and obviously the Celtics threw what they could at him with Grant Williams, because I think Grant did as good as on the perimeter. He was great shifting with him, but Julius is just so much bigger.
There's just a couple plays where Julius, his length, I think, is Grant 6'6", 6'7"?
6'6", maybe.
Yeah. And so he had his length on a couple of those.
And just stronger.
Yeah, bigger, stronger. Grant was a good change-up for you guys, defensively, where
Horford would have made a difference.
Horford 100% makes a difference. And his savvy veteran, he's tall. He's 6'10", taller, longer arms, better rebounder.
And then when Rob switched onto him later in the game, when Udoka made that decision, it was clear that the length bothered him more.
Yes.
And if Horford was doing that all game, I think Julius is still having a great game.
Yeah.
It's in the
mid-20s, though, not 35. Yeah.
And I felt encouraged by the way that Grant played on him, because Julius is going to be up there top 5 power forward this year.
Yeah, and your guys' defense, it'll always get better. And when you have Horford in those clutch minutes, you're going to play Horford and Rob together. Yes. I'm almost certain of it.
Hey, that's going to be the starting lineup Friday if Horford is available.
Yeah, and so I love the way us two being Celtic Knicks fans, we always compare Robert Williams and Mitchell Robinson. It's natural. They're close to the same age, same position. Very similar skill set, where they block the weird jumpers and they catch dunks and they are role players. Rob's a better passer, 100%. Mitchell's bigger and stronger. Not really stronger, but he looks just way bigger now. Yeah. And I was very impressed with Robert Williams. I always have been. I've always been a big fan.
And the
but
fact
him playing 45 minutes
was actually I was so happy, because he looked great, and for him to play that many minutes, which is more than he's ever played, was very encouraging, because he looked just awesome. 16, 10, 5, 3, and 3 or whatever, and he only committed 1 foul, by the way, which is a concern. Is either foul trouble or injuries is the only thing that'll hold him back.
And it's the same case with Mitchell Robinson. Yeah. Foul trouble, we didn't really argue about it, because I'm a pretty open-minded fan. But when Schroeder did the up fake and Robinson goes flying through the air and just nails him, it's that's a concern with Mitchell Robinson. Yeah. It's a 6'1" guard, you're 7'1", get the hand there. You might even tip it, with one of those short jumps. You don't have to fly through the air. Right. That's Mitchell Robinson's biggest hurdle is, 1, stay on the court.
Yep.
too. And while you're staying on the court, don't foul to get off the court.
Yeah, and Rob is so great at blocking those jumpers, like his timing, and he doesn't jump into them. He like jumps straight up.
Yeah, and he's got long arms, great timing, the quick jump. Like Rob is going to be a great center for you guys over the years. And now, like going back, like the theme of this show with some of these teams, like the Warriors, is like now Horford is in front of him, not in front of him, but next to him every day in practice. An elite defensive big on those good
that
Celtics
mentorship
teams.
Just makes him.
And the fact
so
that it's
better.
on the Celtics, where Horford had all those good years, or the 2 or 3 good years,
3
good years on defense, and they're kind of the same like player with the passing, the short roll passing.
I think they fit Udoka's play style great, because with Brad it was kind of a lot more ISO stuff, but Udoka makes it seem like you have 2 bigs that you can pass on the high post and they can create. They're
a zone nightmare.
Yes.
With bringing in Romeo Langford, bringing in Peyton Pritchard, and shooters, you can't play zone against this team. Jaylen Brown is a knockdown shooter. You cannot play zone against them because they have 2 bigs that can go in the high post.
Right.
And so you have to play man, and when you play man against Jason Tatum, obviously the Knicks, he shot 7 of 30. He's not going to shoot 7 of 30 every single game this year. If you play man against the Celtics, he's going to expose you, and then Jaylen Brown is your second scoring option against man.
And if he's all NBA level.
Well, and his handle looks tighter now. He had a couple of those cool step backs he got Obi. He crossed Obi real quick and got fouled.
Yeah.
Like, those 2 looked awesome.
Yeah.
And that brings us to Evan Fournier. Evan Fournier was very good in regulation. He is a massive upgrade over Reggie Bullock. He took the baseline 2 or 3 times in a row for reverse layups. He had 1 3 or 2 threes in the first half. He had I think 16 points or 17, 18 points going into overtime, which if he averages 17 a game for us this year, that's amazing. I projected him at 15. And so if he's that player for us in regulation, oh my gosh, perfect. And there's even a video on Twitter that I saw of him harassing Tatum in the post. Did you see that, fighting over? He's a willing defender.
Yes.
He loves New York already. He loves the fans. I love him on Twitter. Everything. He's a great fit for our culture, and he's already fitting so well. That's the regulation. And then in overtime, we started just going to him. Like, it was Randall on the handoffs, Randall on the pick or on the off ball stuff, and he was just knocking down shots.
Yep.
And that's what a team needs. And I think that it's going to be more of like a Kemba Derrick Rose thing this year for us. Mm-hmm. I truly do. But if Fournier has 5 or 6 games this year like that, it would not surprise me. Yeah. Where Kemba only has 10 points, right? He played 36 minutes for us in his first game.
Kind of a footnote.
A double OT game, Kemba only played 36, which I'm actually happy with. I didn't think he'd play more than 30 most nights, but it's double OT. Yeah. You got to go, and it's the first game of the year against a very good team. You got to go all out for the win.
Right.
Which is obviously RJ played 47 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I expect Kemba to have more games in the 20s than Fournier, personally, just because of Kemba, his ability to score. Yeah. He wasn't doing very well scoring because he got caught with Jaylen Brown on him a lot, who's longer. He couldn't get those layups off. He got blocked a couple times. Yeah. Didn't have a great game in his New York homecoming, his first game as a Knick, his childhood team, that type of thing.
Even when he went back to Charlotte for that first game when he was in Boston, he had 14.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just a nerve thing with him, playing for your hometown and stuff. Yeah. But also, it's also tough when Marcus Smart's out on your perimeter.
No,
and just the Celtics' ability to switch 1 through 5 in the first half was great to watch.
Oh yeah.
And then later in the second half in OT, there was some miscommunications, and I don't know if he said stop switching or just switch 1 through 4 and don't switch.
Well, it was weird, the OT, and I think this might have even been a Knicks offensive adjustment, was we started screening for Fournier down.
Yes.
So if you switch it, then we had the slip opportunity. So I think that's one thing that kind of messed with the Celtics a little bit, was we didn't run as much pick and roll in OT. And so I think that was a great adjustment by Tibbs. We didn't have as much pick and roll for Kemba or whatever.
Having Schroeder out there was kind of tough with a defensive pick and roll stuff, but if in that situation, it's probably going to be Horford in for Schroeder.
And I even remember a pick and roll in that OT for RJ when Fournier's in the middle of his streak. We're hitting him. He's he had the pump fake sidestep 3 stuff. He just looked great. We had that pick and roll to RJ, and I was like, this is our half court offense when we have a guy who's going off like this, where he had a pick and roll and you guys just guarded it perfectly.
Yeah,
I think you guys are going to be one of the best pick and roll defense teams because Marcus Smart can guard 1 through most 5s.
Yeah,
because of his physicality, drawing fouls like he did on Julius in that one post up, and then you got your 2-man is 6'6", 6'7", physical. Your 3-man is if Tatum's actually 6'10", which he is huge. So Tatum is your 3, and then Rob and Horford. You guys can all guard, guards 1 through 5.
Switch 1 through 5,
yeah.
But
those off-ball screens definitely threw your scheme, I think, a little bit because if the big steps up, then whoever was it, who was guarding Fournier? Was it Jalen?
I think it was kind of a mix. It was Marcus switched onto him once he started to get hot. Schroeder found himself on him a couple times.
Because if you guys switch that screen where it's Randall screening and it's Schroeder guarding him, it's a catch by Fournier, throw into the post. Even I think we did it once where Tatum got that bucket in the post on Brown. Mm-hmm. Remember on the left side where he used his left hand off the glass or whatever. So I'm going to look forward to that play a lot more where it's Kemba coming to the left, Fournier coming from the corner to the wing. Hit him if it's open. He's a shooter. He can shoot that every time. If not, you have the post up to Randall or the slip if they're going to jump it. And so I liked the way our offense looked. I thought that our half-court offense control, that was one thing I really had problems with last year for us, felt like we'd come out and it would just be no action, throw it to Julius at the high post, cut through, boom. They would set their center in the middle of the paint or on the other side, and it was just Julius just go get a bucket. This game, it felt like we had way more actions going.
It felt fluid.
And then with 9 seconds, you throw it to him.
Right.
And it's go get a bucket.
And the defense, it was tough. Like when they were setting the down screens to Fournier, Rob sagged off so much because I think he should have stepped up more.
Yeah.
But also, there was one play, I think it was to start, where Marcus tried to go over it, and Fournier played the screen great and backed off to it. He just played on offense. He played so well going around those screens, but I don't know. I think Marcus is a good enough and physical defender to chase him at that point. Make him drive maybe, but I mean, it was also tough because he was not missing.
Yeah,
there's only so much you can do.
Well, then Schroeder flies by him and he hits a step back 3. It's it comes to a point in time where you'll live with it. You'll live with some of the shots.
And I'm not concerned at all. Our defense was very good, and we're not gonna have Grant in there. We're gonna have Horford in there. So, and even though Grant looked awesome, and instead it'll be Horford in those situations where if Horford is still the player that he was, then it's
and then
great.
Adding on top of that, so one of my last topics I want to talk about. When you said Grant played well, Obi looked great. Yes. Obi was Obi. He was getting out in the fast break. He had the dunk. He had the crazy layup underneath. He had the dunk on Pritchard too. He shoots the ball. I don't like Obi threes at 15 seconds on the shot clock. Right. But when he does shoot it, it isn't like a sit there, look around like it was last year.
Confident.
I'm open and shoot. He's catching and he's firing, which for a guy like him who got planted way behind Randall last year and only got 9 minutes a game, 10 minutes, 11 minutes a game. Yeah. Some games 15 if we were playing him on less minutes and stuff. Obi is going to be good enough to play the 5 this year, and I have that written because we had a long stretch in that game with Obi at the 5, and it's also due to our depth, our health. Taj was out for personal reasons. I think he might have had a baby, or his wife had a baby, and then we haven't had Nerlens Noel at all. So I don't want to get too optimistic about Obi at the 5, but it did look good. It added a this way to our court, not just sideways with him standing in the corners. It helps that, but then rebound. Obi's out because RJ's a great rebounder. You got Randall, who's a great rebounder for a power forward. So once those guys are getting the rebounds and Obi can run, he's a really fast 6'9", explosive player. And so he added a lot of stretch to the floor, which we saw in that one little stretch. It felt like Boston got a little tired, where we had
worn out, and just got. I think we got too spun up. I think, and also it was usually in that stretch, Tatum is getting his buckets, but I have no worries for Tatum. Yep. He'll be just fine. I think he's making another jump this year because he has every single year so far, other than the toxic Celtics.
Once the passing,
yes,
and it's not even. I don't even think it's like the passing skill. I think it's the fact that Tatum can now see, like, we bring in Aaron Nesmith. He's a capable shooter. Or Romeo looked awesome last night.
Yes.
Like, you bring in, Tatum has way more guys that you can bring in now. And once he becomes, and he is a good passer, but once he becomes a little more of a willing passer, he could easily average 6-7 assists a game.
Which is crazy.
And a dude who's going to average 25 plus, probably 28 or 29. He will probably win a couple scoring titles in his career because that's how much talent he has. He shoots the 3-ball very efficiently. He just didn't look good last night, and it'll get better. It happens. You know, just like I said, Kemba didn't look good last night.
Yeah.
Derrick Rose had 9 points.
Yeah. It didn't seem.
You guys were missing Horford. Yeah. We were missing Nerlens Noel. It's not that we were missing Nerlens Noel because I'm not gonna compare Nerlens Noel to Al Horford. We were missing big depth, and Tibbs loves to play big.
Right.
And so, I mean, was it nice that we ended up playing Obi at the 5, and that helped us a lot? Yes, but we probably would have played bigger, more paint defense. And so it changed the game dynamic, which it's always fun early in the year. I don't want the two perfect teams to play each other early in the year because I want something to look forward to the next time. I want the next time the Celtics-Knicks play, it's probably going to be in Boston.
Yeah.
I want that game to have Al Horford. I want Nerlens Noel to be back, and I want our full teams now to go at each other because we'll have like new things to look for.
Yes.
And so I think that that's going to be like one of the cool things about this series between these two teams is they're so perfectly matched. We have great wings. You guys have great wings. Our guards, you have great defensive guards. We have great offensive guards.
Yeah.
Deep benches. Yeah. Lots of shooting off the bench.
Much improved bench, and the role players looked great last night. We'll have Josh Richardson off the bench. He was out for a migraine.
That's right. I forgot.
Romeo looked awesome other than a couple turnovers. If he can shoot the way that he has proven this offseason in the summer league and preseason.
It looks way more like fluid. It's almost like an Obi situation.
It looks like it's so much more confident.
It goes up. He hit a transition one.
Yeah.
It just like catch just went up, no hesitation. And I think that's also a lot of your coach.
Yes, I agree.
I think that he's letting the boys play. He's brought in a system of more, and Brad had to do what he had to do to win because of all the injuries, the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that, is it Udoka?
Udoka, yeah.
I think that he's brought in way more of like a not pass first mentality because Jalen's shooting that shit every time he's up. That shit's going up. But he's brought in way more of a, if you come into the game, Peyton Pritchard always is shooting, but you come into the game just as an example, and you have an open 3, you have to take it because that's going to help Jalen and Jason a lot. Schroeder, come into the game and be aggressive. He had 2 or 3 mid-range jumpers, a layup. Obviously, he missed the layup late in fourth quarter. Had a couple weird things, but I love Schroeder. I think Schroeder's a great addition to your guys' bench unit, and like the fact that you're going to need some bench scoring, like creation-wise. Because I think last night you saw a lot of staggering lineups with Jalen and Jason. You're not always going to be able to do that, especially on back-to-backs. You're going to have to get them out for chunks, 6-minute chunks here and there.
And I feel comfortable this year not having them in the game at the same time. But last year, if we didn't have them in the game if we didn't have either of them in at the same time, it was catastrophic.
Yep.
And this year I feel much more comfortable for the team as a whole, just the system and everything. And if Grant and Romeo step up the way they did, then it makes things a lot more interesting. Nesmith and Pritchard didn't score. They seemed kind of out of it.
Just didn't knock down shots.
They
will, though. Pritchard is
I'm not concerned.
Pritchard's just one of those bench players. He's just going to be good for... Pritchard's going to have a great career. He's a very poised young... he's a very smart...
Yes. Yeah. Unfazed.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell he played 4 years of college, was good at every level he's played.
Right.
Had a great summer. Yeah, Pritchard's going to be fine. I think that's kind of towards the end of our list and all of our stuff. One thing I want to end with, we didn't rehearse this, we didn't talk. Who is the biggest, why can't I think of the word? Snub on the top 75.
It's hard not to say Vince Carter because he played 20 years, top 5 in 3 points made all time. I'd probably go with that or Dwight.
Yeah, I'm
because
going.
Dwight was so dominant.
And I got to bring up Kyrie, too, because he didn't make it, right? So Kyrie, Tracy McGrady, T-Mac. And even, we were talking earlier, I think Dikembe Mutombo was a little bit. Obviously, I think Dwight Howard had a better career than Dikembe. Yeah. But all of those Defensive Player of the Years, his impact on the game. Finals,
lost
yeah.
to Kobe.
So I think that those guys were our main guys. My biggest one's definitely Vince Carter, though.
Yeah.
22 years in the league, great three-point shooter, made the finals with the New Jersey Nets.
Yeah, that one's... I feel like I could have subbed him in for Dame.
Dame, yeah, that's tough.
Or just even some of these dudes, like, obviously, with these...
You got to respect the older players. So I don't want to... I would like to look... Maybe that's a video idea. I'd like to look into what was X player's impact in his era. What awards did he win compared to Vince Carter? We could look into that sometime. And that'd be a fun video. So hope you guys liked it. It's the first video, first episode. We're gonna come to you guys a couple times a week. So yeah, peace out.